When Sarah Martinez came home from the grocery store that Tuesday afternoon, she never imagined her two Bernese Mountain Dogs would refuse to let her crawling baby enter the living room. What she discovered next would send shivers down her spine and change how she looked at her dogs forever. But before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. You won't believe what happens next. It was a typical autumn day in suburban Portland, Oregon. Sarah Martinez had left her 8-month-old daughter, Emma, with her husband, David, while she ran out for groceries. The couple had two Bernese Mountain Dogs named Atlas and Luna, both 3 years old, who had been part of their family since they were puppies. The dogs had always been gentle giants, especially with baby Emma. When Sarah pulled into the driveway 45 minutes later, everything seemed perfectly normal. The house stood quiet under the golden afternoon sun, leaves scattered across the front lawn. She grabbed the grocery bags from the trunk and made her way inside, expecting to find David playing with Emma in the nursery. Instead, she was greeted by an unusual scene. David stood in the hallway looking completely baffled. Baby Emma was on the carpet, happily babbling and playing with her toys, but Atlas and Luna were positioned between Emma and the living room entrance, sitting side by side like furry sentinels. Every time Emma crawled toward the living room, both dogs would gently block her path, nudging her back with their massive heads. "They've been doing this for the past 20 minutes, David said, running his hair through his hair. "I can't figure out what's gotten into them. They won't let her go into the living room at all." Sarah set down the groceries. Her curiosity piqued. Atlas and Luna had never behaved this way before. The dogs were usually relaxed and playful, following Emma around the house protectively, but never restricting her movements. "Maybe they're just being overprotective," Sarah suggested, though something in her gut told her this was different. She watched as Emma, determined as ever, made another attempt to crawl toward the living room. Immediately, Luna moved to block her, gently but firmly pushing the baby back with her nose. Atlas positioned himself alongside Luna, both dogs creating an impenetrable wall. What made it even stranger was their body language. The dogs weren't playful or excited. Their ears were alert, their eyes fixed intently on something in the living room. Luna's tail wasn't wagging. Atlas kept glancing back into the room, then returning his attention to Emma. "They look scared," David observed, his voice dropping to a whisper. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Bernese Mountain Dogs were known for their courage and calm temperament. What could possibly make both of them act this way? "Stay here with Emma," Sarah said, her heart beginning to pound. "I'm going to check the living room." As Atlas turned his massive head toward her and let out a low, unusual whine. It wasn't aggressive, but it was urgent. The dog was trying to communicate something. Sarah stepped past the dogs and into the living room. At first glance, everything looked completely normal. The couch sat in its usual spot, pillows arranged neatly, the television was off. The coffee table held a few of Emma's board books and a half-empty cup of coffee from that morning. Then she heard it. A subtle hissing sound, barely audible, coming from somewhere near the fireplace. Sarah's blood ran cold. She took another step forward, her eyes scanning every corner of the room. The hissing grew slightly louder. It was coming from the floor vent near the fireplace, the one connected to their heating system. She knelt down carefully, her hands trembling slightly. The smell hit her before she fully understood what was happening. A faint, unpleasant odor, almost like rotten eggs. Natural gas. Before we continue our story, let's take just 5 seconds. If this story is touching your heart, please press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us because many more beautiful stories are coming. Thank you, my dear friend. Now, let us continue.
Her mind raced. Their home used natural gas for heating and the stove. Gas companies added that distinctive sulfur smell precisely so people could detect leaks. This wasn't her imagination. There was a gas leak somewhere in their heating system, and it was venting into the living room. Sarah's emergency training from her years as a school nurse kicked into gear. Natural gas was highly flammable. In high concentrations, it could cause dizziness, nausea, and even unconsciousness. For a baby Emma's size, even a moderate exposure could be dangerous. And if the concentration got high enough, a single spark from an electrical outlet or appliance could trigger an explosion. She backed out of the living room slowly, her heart hammering in her chest. "David, take Emma and go outside right now," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "Don't turn on any lights, don't use your phone inside the house, just get her out." David's eyes widened. "What's wrong?" "Gas leak. We need to leave, now." David scooped up Emma immediately, and Sarah grabbed the diaper bag from the hallway. Atlas and Luna followed them to the front door, staying close to the baby the entire time.
Once outside, Sarah called 911 from her cell phone. She explained the situation calmly and clearly, and the dispatcher assured her that the fire department and the gas company would be there within minutes. As they waited on the front lawn, Sarah looked down at Atlas and Luna, who sat on either side of Emma's stroller, still vigilant and protective. "They knew," she whispered to David. "They could smell it before we could. They were protecting her." David shook his head in amazement. "How long do you think the leak was happening?" "I don't know, but if Emma had been in that room, crawling around on the floor where the concentration would be highest—" Sarah didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. The fire department arrived 6 minutes later, followed quickly by a truck from the gas company. The firefighters evacuated the neighboring houses as a precaution and brought equipment inside to measure the gas levels. 20 minutes later, the fire chief approached Sarah and David with a serious expression. "You got very lucky," he said. "There's a significant leak in your heating system, a faulty valve in the furnace. The gas had been accumulating in your living room for probably a couple of hours. The concentration was approaching dangerous levels. If it had continued for another hour or two, or if someone had flipped a light switch in that room—" He didn't need to finish. Sarah felt David's hand grip hers tightly. "Your dogs likely saved your daughter's life today," the fire chief continued. "Dogs have a much more sensitive sense of smell than humans. They can detect natural gas at much lower concentrations. They knew something was wrong and acted on their instincts to keep your baby safe." The gas company technician shut off the gas supply to the house and explained that they would need to repair the faulty valve before the system could be used again. The family would need to stay elsewhere for at least a day, maybe 2. As Sarah processed everything that had happened, she knelt down beside Atlas and Luna.
The dogs had finally relaxed now that Emma was safe and the danger had passed. She wrapped her arms around both of their thick, furry necks. "Good dogs," she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. "Such good dogs." Luna licked her face, and Atlas's tail finally began to wag. That evening, the Martinez family stayed at Sarah's mother's house across town. Emma slept peacefully in a portable crib, completely unaware of how close she had come to danger. Atlas and Luna slept on the floor beside her, their protective vigil continuing. Sarah couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about what might have happened if the dogs hadn't been there, if they had been at the park, if they had been in the backyard, if Emma had been alone in that room while the gas accumulated. But they had been there, and they had known, and they had acted. The next morning, Sarah posted about the experience on social media, wanting to share the incredible story of how Atlas and Luna had protected Emma. The post went viral within hours, shared thousands of times by people amazed by the dog's instincts and devotion. News outlets picked up the story. A local television station came to interview the family. Sarah and David stood in their front yard with Emma, Atlas, and Luna, telling reporters how their loyal companions had become heroes. "People always say dogs are man's best friend," Sarah told the camera. "But until you experience something like this, you don't fully understand what that means. These dogs weren't trained to detect gas leaks. They weren't working dogs or rescue dogs. They were just family pets who loved our daughter enough to know something was wrong and to protect her at all costs." The fire chief who had responded to their call also spoke to the media, emphasizing the importance of carbon monoxide and natural gas detectors in homes. "The Martinez family got lucky because of their remarkable dogs," he said. "But everyone should have working detectors in their homes. They're inexpensive and can save your life." Within a week, the Martinez family was back in their home, the heating system repaired and thoroughly inspected. Sarah had installed additional gas detectors throughout the house, though she knew their best early warning system walked on 4 legs and had fur. Emma continued to grow and develop, blissfully unaware that she had been in any danger. But as she got older, her parents would tell her the story of the day Atlas and Luna became heroes, the day their instincts and love proved stronger than any danger. Sarah often thought about the countless subtle ways Atlas and Luna communicated. The tilted heads when they were curious, the gentle nudges when they wanted attention, the way they positioned themselves protectively around Emma during walks. This time, their message had been urgent and clear: keep the baby away from danger. And because they had been so persistent, so unusual in their behavior, Sarah and David had paid attention. That was all it took to prevent a tragedy. If this story gave you chills and made you appreciate the incredible bond between humans and their dogs, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel for more amazing true stories. And drop a comment below telling us about a time when a pet protected you or someone you love. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes our 4-legged friends know things we don't. Always trust their instincts.